Hello, this video will go over how to set up your Lumen course within D2L. So the first step is to import the Lumen zip file that will be sent from Lumen to you to put it into D2L. So it'll be a zip file that they'll probably email to you, and you just want to download it and put it into your course. So you want to go into your course, you want to go to Course Admin, and then you want to go to Import Export Copy Components, and you want to import components. Then you want to choose Start and upload, and you're going to pick from wherever you have that zip file saved to your computer. So after it's emailed to you, then you just want to save it to your computer. You'll choose it, pick the zip file, and upload it, let it import components, and then just let it run its thing and import the package. When it gets finished, it'll say view content, and you'll be able to go and view the content. So when you view the content, this is what it should look like. It should give you lots of different modules with lots of different files in them. So it's important that some of these things remain drafts. So the part that says course contents, this should remain draft. It'll come over as a draft, but leave it as a draft. Faculty resources needs to remain a draft as well as course assignments if those are available within the course. You want to leave all of those draft. The first module that you want to have visible to students is Succeeding with Waymaker. So Succeeding with Waymaker and anything after that can be visible to students, but leave these in draft mode because they're going to be things that the students don't need to see. So the first couple of things that you might want to set up before you move forward in the course is you might want to go ahead and set up your communication. So you would go to Faculty Resources. So again, that's Faculty Resources, Waymaker, Faculty Tools. So when you select that, you'll see a page similar to this. You want to come up to the top and do Setup Communication first. So choose Setup Communication, and then you'll be able to configure Waymaker. So you're gonna put in the email address that it's gonna come from. I would leave it your Gordon email, your name, which it should have already pre-populated that, and then you can choose when to receive notifications of Waymaker's recommendations. So it'll send you an email of any Waymaker recommendations for communication that it might have. I would suggest a daily digest, but you can do it each time a recommendation is triggered as well. Because basically what's going to happen is, say that a student is not doing so great in the class, it would recommend a trigger for them, and it would email you and say, hey, so-and-so is not doing so great on this particular module. Would you like to send them an email to, give them more resources or whatever? So that's what they mean. So I would like a daily digest, especially if it's a really active class and you've got them doing a lot every day, or you could just do it every time a recommendation is triggered. But that's what you want to choose there. Then we're going to define the course settings. So here you can put in the mastery threshold for settings. So it's going to be 80% by default, but you can change that. Basically, if a student does not meet 80% on that quiz, it's not going to be considered mastery. So you define what mastery is. Again, I personally think 80 is a good score, but you can change that to 75 if you want to, 95, whatever you want it to be. Also, you put in the course dates, the start and end date, so that's when the messages will be sent out between these dates. Then you select what we call your personality. So you have coach, which is more informal, more almost like you were talking to the student. And then you have the advisor, which is a little bit more formal. And you can view what these look like. So like if you view sample messages, you can kind of read how this is kind of formatted. And so this one would be, if they're needing more practice or if they've done a great job. And then this one, just the facts, is more, you can see it's a little bit more informal or a little bit more formal. So you can pick whichever one you prefer. I do prefer the coach though. Then we set up custom automated messages. So it will send them studies tips when they meet certain qualifiers. So a study tips is going to go out to them when a student completes when they use less than 45% of the formative assessments in a module. And then they take their first attempt and then they score below the threshold. That's what's going to send this out. And so let me back up and say that basically within each module, and I'll show you in a second, there's going to be formative assessments kind of built into the module. And then at the end of every module, there's a summative assessment. And they can take each summative assessment twice. So as they go through these formative assessments, if they score 25% or less on those formative assessments, and then they go out there and take that summative assessment and they make, on their first attempt, they make below the mastery threshold, which we set to 80, it's going to send this message. So basically, it's going to say, hey, you might want to go back and redo some of these formative assessments that you didn't complete in order to do a better job on your second attempt with the summative assessment, is basically what it's going to say. So that's the qualifier for getting that message. And then you can see these messages. So if you click on them, you can read what they look like. And so you can see that it will kind of pull out this stuff. So you can add to it if you want to. If there's anything particular that you want to send to them, you could add that in there. The other communication it will send out is this one, nice work, and it's when they reach or exceed the mastery on a quiz. This gets sent to them for just positive. So once, if they make an 80 or above on the quiz attempt, the summative quiz, it'll send a message. And so you can kind of see what these look like. You can add in your own information if you will. We just ask that you don't mess with the things in the brackets because that's going to pull, it's a replacement string to pull their actual name and to pull that actual outcome. So don't mess with those or it'll get messed up. So again, those will be automatically sent out. You just have the ability to edit those if you want to. Also, there's a third type of messaging, and that is when a student uses that they've used less than 25% of the formative assessments in the module. So the little quizzes built in, they use less than 25% of those, and they score below the mastery threshold, which is 80% on their first quiz. You can send out another message. And so one is an office hours invitation, so we can view and edit this message to where basically it says, hey, do you want to come and meet in your office hours? During my office hours. So that's one of them that can be sent out. And the other one is supplemental help. This one's great if you have other resources you would like to link your students out to. You could list those resources here. I wouldn't mess with the rest of the email, but you could list those resources here for them to get supplemental help. So those are two extra emails that can send out in that particular qualifier. So after that is completed, you just want to turn on the automatic messaging, make sure it's on, and make sure that it's coming from you, and all of that will be set up. Those automatic messages will be set up. So now let's talk about how the course is set up under content. So within the course content area, you have a Succeeding with Waymaker module, and this is just some basic stuff that will give the students just some basic technical requirements with getting started with Waymaker. Then it jumps into the content of the course. So I'm obviously using a psychology course, but yours would be whatever content area that you're using. So within each module, there's going to be a study plan for the students to complete. That's going to be the first thing that they want to complete. So they would do the study plan, and it would show, they'll go through these little modules themselves. So I'll show you these as a student in a second, but just know that that's what this is going to be. So within the study plan, you have show what you know. That is kind of the pre-test. So the students want to do that first, and it's basically actually they want to look at why it matters first, which connects them to the real world. But then show what you know is going to basically to give a pre-test, and it's going to show them what they need to focus on within that module. Then they're going to go to each of these modules and look at the content, each of these topic areas, and then this ready for the quiz is going to take them into the actual summative assessment for that module. And again, this is the test that they can take twice. This one is also the test that populates to the D2L gradebook. So the highest grade that they make on the 2 attempts is going to push to the D2L gradebook. That's what this is. That's what I mean by the summative assessments. These have little formative assessments built in, but that's the summative assessment. So that is what is in each module is the study plan. Now, and that is actually here, down here is the link to that summative assessment. So it'll say quiz, whatever it is, that's the link to the summative assessment. So if we look at the other module, notice it has the study plan and it has the summative quiz. This one has the study plan, it has the summative quiz. This one has the study plan, it has the summative quiz. So again, it's very predictable. Now notice in this particular particular course, there are discussions that are built in. These are just suggested. They're already there. If you don't want to use them, you don't have to use them. You can delete them out. You can put them on draft. You don't have to use them. But again, they're meant to make your course more robust because basically the only grade, if you just use the study plan, the only grade they're going to be getting in D2L is just the quiz that's going to populate their summative quiz for each module. That may be all you want, but they do have built-in discussions. And again, those are built in right into the modules. Now, if you didn't want to use those, you can go to the discussion area, and you see they're also populated here as well. And you could just go in and you could edit the forum. And you could hide this forum so that everything with all the topics within that forum are now hidden. So now notice when we go in as a student, they don't see that discussion in each module. They just see the study plan and the quiz, the study plan and the quiz. They don't see the module in each of those. They don't see the discussion in any of those because we hid it because we're not going to use it. Now, if you decide not to use the discussions, you want to fix it in your grade book, because if you go to grades and you go to manage grades, notice that they have discussions set up already. So you want to make some changes to that. So the first thing that you might want to do is, if you're not using discussions, you want to come to grades and manage grades and come to the discussion, and we're going to edit that grade item, and we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to make the weight 0, so that way it's not going to count in the grade book. So we're not deleting it because we might want to use it later, but we are going to make the weight 0 to where it's not taking any percentage of the grade book. Then we're going to come up to restrictions, and we're going to hide that grade item, and we're going to save and close. So now they won't see that grade item. It won't be visible to them. You'll still see it, but they won't see it, so because it's not an assignment in the class, and its weight will be 0 now, to where it's not affecting the final grade. So if you're not using discussions, you want to not only hide the discussion itself, hide the forum that'll hide all the discussions, is you want to go and hide the grade item and make the grade worth 0, or make the weight worth 0 for that grade item. So again, that's using the discussions. Now, if you wanted to use the discussions, you can come into the discussions. So you can go to the discussions area, and just know that you can edit them as much as you want. You can come to edit topic. You can edit the content of it if you don't like the way it's set up, or you want to add something else in. You can edit the topic as much as you want. You might want to check this button, users must start a thread before they can read and reply to other threads. You might want to check that button. And again, you can change the locking and visibility to where when students can actually see it and post to it. Visibility is going to be, it will be visible from this date to this date. Locking is, it'll be available to post in from this date to this date. So you could set that up if you wanted to. Notice under assessment, it's already connected to the grade item. So it's already connected to the grade item. You would just need to put the highest score they can make on it, which is probably a 10. These are set up to be graded out of 10. So you could go ahead and put that in as well. If you want to attach a rubric, you could do that. So all those extra things you can set up within the discussions area. But again, the big takeaway point is going to be number one is if you deciding if you want to use those discussions or not, if they're in your class. And if you don't want to use them, you want to go to the discussions area and hide that forum, hide the whole forum. On the course discussions, you would hide that whole forum. If you also want to go to the grades area and hide the individual grade items for those, and take those weights to be 0 so that the students won't see it. If you don't take the weights to be 0, your grades will end up doing something crazy. If you do want to use the discussions, that's fine. You just want to go and read over the discussions and make sure they're accurate for what you want to do. And you definitely want to edit the topic and go in and put under assessment, you want to go in and put the topic score, so the highest grade they can make on each discussion. So that is how you could set up the discussions that are already built into the course. So the next thing is the assignments area. So you want to go and look at the course assignments. And again, your course may have these, your course may not. But this particular course has course assignments. So what they did is they kind of lumped them all just in one area. So you want to kind of pick and choose the ones that you want to use. So notice that they are all drafts because the course assignment file is drafts. So, you can undraft the ones that you want to use, or you can leave them all on draft if you're not going to use them. But these are assignments that they would type a paper, type whatever, and then submit it in. So these are different than the discussions. But again, they're like the discussions in that they're just sample ones set up. So you can scroll through and look at the different assessments or assignments that have been created by Lumen, and you can decide if you want to use them. Most of them already come with a rubric, which is really great, but you can choose and look at which ones you want. And so if you want to use any of these assignments, what you want to do is you have several options. You can turn the whole module to where it's not on draft, so I can turn and make the whole module published, course assignments is published, and then come in here and pick the ones I want to use. So maybe I want to use this one, so I'm going to publish him, and maybe I want to use this one, so I'm going to publish him, but those are the only two that I want to use. The rest I'm going to leave on draft, which means the students won't even see them. So these are the two that I might consider using, published and published. And again, they're going to be under the course assignments. Now remember, you got to make the course assignment module published before you publish the items. If you publish the item and don't publish the module, they can't see it anyways. So you want to make sure to publish the module and then publish only the ones you want to use. So that's one option for getting the students able to see the assessments, is just leaving it under course assignments and undrafting them. You are welcome to move them around as well though. So if you're like, I really want this to be in the module that it goes with, you can move those around as well. So if I want this assignment for Foundations of Psychology, if that fits in the Psychological Foundation module, I can just grab it and move it into the Psychological Foundations module, and it will actually now be part of it. So when I go to the Psychological Foundations, you'll have the assignment, you'll have the study plan, the discussion, and the quiz. So you'll have the different pieces. Now I would probably move it down to where it is not before the study plan. I would always leave the study plan first, because that's kind of the overarching and lets you see the big picture of the module, but you can always put the assignment there. So again, there's two options for moving the course assignments if you want to use them. One is to leave them where they are and then just undraft the ones and leave them under the course assignments module. The other one is to leave the course assignments module in a draft mode and just move the assignments into the module you want them to go in, and make sure that they aren't drafted as well. So that's two options for using those assignments. Now, like before with the discussions, if you want to use those assignments, you want to make sure that they're set up correctly. So again, you can come in, and if you want to use the assignments, you can click on this and you can edit the assignment if you want to. If you say, well, instead of making it a 9-minute presentation, I want to make it 10 minutes, whatever. You can change up the pieces of the assignment as well. You can also edit the assignment by going to Assignments and clicking on the drop down and edit the assignment. And then again, you can edit the content of the assignment. You can come down and choose. It's already going to be connected to a grade item, so that's already set up for you. You could add a rubric if you wanted to. You could come in and set restrictions on the dates of when it can be sent in. That's not going to come over with Lumen, but you can set those up as well. Really highly encourage you to come in and turn it in for that paper, because these are mainly essays, so you want to have turn it in turned on so it gets sent through there. So in that case, you just want to enable grade mark. You just want to enable the originality check. And then you just want to allow the learners to be able to see their similarity scores. So enable the grade mark, enable originality check, and then allow learners to be able to see that submission, and then save and close. And that will turn it in for that particular assignment, and you'll see it because it'll have the binocular icon. So this means it's related to an assessment. This means it's related to turn it in. So you just want to do those for the assessments if you want to use them. Now, what if you don't want to use those assignments? So the other end of the deal. So in that case, what you would want to do is you would start in the content area, and you would go ahead and under this course assignments area, so over the course assignments area, you would just go ahead and make the whole module draft. So you would draft all of them to where nobody sees them because you're not using them. So you wouldn't move them into the modules. You would just leave everything on draft. If this is draft, all the things in it are draft. So you would leave it on draft. Now you're not done yet because you have to fix the grades. So just like we did with discussions, we would go to grades. We would go to manage grades. And there you would be able to see the assignments. So just like with the discussions, those came pre-populated over in the course shell. So if you are using them, then that's great. It's already set up for you. But if you're not using them, you need to do some work. So what you want to do first is to go to each assignment. You want to edit that grade item. And you want to first turn the weight to a 0. That way it's not going to play out in the gradebook at all. It's not going to count for anything. Then you just want to go to restrictions, and you want to come into the restrictions and hide the grade item. and then we save and close. And you want to do that for each item. So again, you're hiding the grade item and you're making it a weight worth of 0. That way it doesn't count towards the grade book. We don't necessarily want to delete them because number one, that's more work. And then number two, what if you want to use them later on? Now they're deleted, you have to rebuild them. So you might just want to go on ahead and just hide them if you're not going to use them. So again, that's two things that you want to do is to go through the discussions area and the assignments area if you have those in your course, and decide if you are going to use them and if you're not going to use them. If you are going to use them, complete setting them up. If you aren't going to use them, draft them, go to the grade book, hide the grade item, and make the weight worth 0 so it doesn't count. So that's how you're going to address the grade book and the assignments area. So now I'm going to log in as a student just so that you can see what it's like to do the study plan so from their viewpoint. Now, the assignments and the discussions are just like any old assignments and discussions within D2L. It's the same old thing. They post, they send in their paper, all of that's the same, all of that's fine. You already know how to do all of that. All right, so now we're logged in as a student within the Lumen course. So they just want to go to content, and then notice that they'll see succeeding with Waymaker. And it's really important that they go through this information just to know how Waymaker works. And so then they would get started on the modules. Now, the first time that they go to take a quiz, it's going to ask for their activation code. So they will see something that looks like this. They would then enter their activation code if they bought it from the bookstore, or they could just pay $25 and get it online there. So they could just pay right straight to Lumen and bypass the bookstore and pay there and get it. Or they get 2 free passes available. So say that they're waiting on financial aid or something to come through, they can actually take 2 quizzes or two quiz attempts using this pass to let them get started before they go and put in their activation code. So again, that's going to prompt them when they go to take their first quiz. So what they want to do is they'll click on the module, and the first thing always in each module is going to be the study plan, as we discussed before. So they click on the module, they would go to the study plan, and then they would see why it matters. They would look at that first. So we're going to look at why it matters, and really this brings this module to the forefront of how it applies to real life is really what it's designed to do. So here they can look at the information, they can read it, and they can see, why is it, applying. They can go to the next page, and then this is going to do the show what you know. So this is the second part of the beginning part of the module. So in the study plan, they'll have the why it matters, which is kind of tying it to the real world, and then show what you know. This is the pretest. So they take the pretest, and they just do the pretest and they just answer the questions. And again, it ranges, usually it's about 10 to 17 questions. So after I submit my pretest, it's going to give me my score, and then it's going to tell me a listing of the topics that I scored well on and things that I already know. And then it's going to list things that I really need to learn. So these are the topics that I didn't score so well on, so those are the ones I need to focus on. Then it takes you through and it actually shows you the question, and then it tells you if you were incorrect or correct. It doesn't tell you the right answer. It also tells you what part of the module that's covered in. So I answered this incorrectly, and that's part of the Introducing Consciousness piece of the module, so I want to review that. So see, I noticed I answered this one correctly. It still tells me where it was. So this concept sleep did not show up on my most needed list, so I answered some of the, or actually it did, so that will show me that I need some more to cover that concept. So again, this is the pretest, and then they just do view updated study plan, and what it's going to do is it's going to update the rest of the study plan, and it's going to tell you you need work in these fields, or you're good to go in these fields. Now what it might do is if I'd answered really well and say sleep and dreams, it would give me a green here, and it would say, hey, you're doing really great in this. That doesn't mean that I don't need to go through it and look at it. It just means that, I might not have to read it as in detail as I do the others, because I did score pretty well on it based upon my pretest. So again, they don't get a grade for the pretest. All the pretest is doing is updating what they need to work on. So then they get started in the dive in section. So this was the getting started with the why it matters and pretest. Then the dive in is the actual teaching of the content. So the student would click on that, and they see that this module is made up of several sub-modules. So it's got 4 pieces to it. So they click on that, and then it's just a matter of reading through the information. So it'll have the learning objective, they scroll down, they go to next, and it's just mainly walking them through the different pieces. Sometimes there are embedded videos, and then sometimes they have these little self-checks. And so within these self-checks, they just click on them and check their answer. So it'll tell them if they're correct or incorrect. And then they just keep on moving. Some of them have little essay responses that they can answer. And then when they check their answer, it'll kind of give them a mock response. So again, this isn't anything that is graded. It's just a self-check there. These are the formative assessments that you'll see. So we keep going. And you'll go through, they'll just keep going through the module, reading through the content, looking at the try-its, watching the videos, all those pieces. And see if they answer incorrectly, it will tell them what the correct answer is. So they go through all the pieces, doing all the little assessments and videos till they get to the end of the to the module. Notice that some of the modules have a slideshow within them that you click on them and you read different things and you look at different things. And that will, it's kind of embedded in. So again, there's a lot of little interactives built into the module itself. So at the end of each module, you notice it's kind of the breadcrumbs here. There's reading, reading, reading. At the end of each module, there's going to be the formative assessment or the check your understanding. And so basically, it's going to ask them to pick their best answer, and it's going to ask them to choose if they're just guessing, if they're pretty sure, or if they're very sure that they are correct in this way. So they would answer those. And again, this is the formative assessment. It tells you what needs work, and it tells you what was incorrect or correct. And then, of course, you can retake it if you want to. So it'll keep showing you these things. So that is the formative assessment. Then you go to next, and then it goes into the next module. So again, let's go back to the study plan so you can see. So in the study plan, it shows I have completed 5 of 5 modules there, 5 of 5 activities because there were 5 reading pages. This one is 1 of 6, so I just got started. So I've completed this one. Now I'm going to do this one. So each module is going to be similar to that. It'll have built-in little formative assessments, and at the end, it will have a formative assessment there. So then after they get done going through all of this, they'll do the putting it together, which is kind of a wrap up where you're taking this information and applying it. Again, very similar to the getting started one. So they're just going through this and applying and seeing how this all applies together. And then they're going to do the quiz. So when they click, remember, this is the summative quiz. This is the one they actually get a grade on. So when they click on this, it's going to tell them, it would tell them their score. But to get to the quiz, they actually go out of the study plan and they go to the quiz link in D2L. So right here, so that's the summative quiz. So they go to the summative quiz and they're going to take it. This is what it looks like. They get 2 attempts per every summative quiz. So we'll start the quiz and we answer the questions. And again, usually they're between 10 and 17 answers, or 10 and 17 questions. So we go through and we answer the questions. And then we submit our score. So this one, I received a 41%. It told me that there's still more to learn. It tells me the ones that I did well on. So it's very similar to the pre-quiz. It shows me what I'm correct, what I did wrong, that type of thing. Again, very similar to the pre-quiz, but this was the summative assessment. If the student goes to the grades area, they should see that it populates that student made a 41% on that exam, and so that shows it there. So since that student did not meet the 80% threshold, you'll notice that I got an email. So as the teacher, I got an email saying that this particular student is in this particular course and they're doing some of the formative assessments, but they didn't do well on the summative assessment for states of consciousness. They scored a 41. So it's letting me know that I might want to go into Waymaker and check on that and look in the Waymaker Faculty Tools, Faculty Resources module to see more specifics about it. So basically it's letting me know I might want to check this out for this student because they did not score so well. So that's all a student has to do going through those modules. So now I'm logged in as the teacher and I can go to content and I'll be able to go to the particular module and I'm actually able to go into the study plan myself. So what it will let me see as a study plan, it's letting me view it as a student. So it's not telling me much. It's telling me basically this is what a student would see. If you turn the student view off, it will actually let you come down here and see that 30%. So the average formative assessment score is 30%, and the average summative score is 75%. So on the final quiz that they took, they scored 75% on the questions that were from that module. So on this one, the average score for the formative assessments, those assessments built into the module, were 66%. Now the average summative score, based upon their summative assessment, the questions that went into this one, was a 33%. So really what you're wanting to see is maybe the formative scores might be lower, but the summative score should be higher, because this indicates maybe they didn't know it as they were going through, but by the time they got to the summative, they got it. But you want to make sure these scores should be pretty high, but you're going to be able to see those average scores. Also, you're able to go into the quiz results, and you would be able to see here that one person has attempted their first attempt. They made a 41% on it. No one's met mastery yet, which is 80% or above, and then no one has taken a second attempt there. So you'd be able to see the average scores there. Now, just like with regular grade items in D2L, you can go to grades and you'll be able to see the individual grades that they made. So you're able to go in, and just like within D2L, you would be able to see per student the grades that they made for each quiz. So you're still able to see that as normal. So now let's go and see what we were talking about with the communication. So we're going to go to faculty resources, and we're going to go to Waymaker faculty tools, which is where we were to begin with our communications. And then we're going to go and we see one student has reached mastery, or help one student reach mastery on their second quiz attempt. So this basically lets me know that one student has taken their first attempt, but they did not meet mastery. So I go to take action, and it will tell me that student, whatever the student's name is, missed questions on 3 outcomes, and I can expand it and see what outcomes they missed and what questions they missed. They scored a 41%. So at that point, I can choose to send them a message. So I can do message, and I can choose to send this one-on-one message that we set up earlier about the office hours. I can edit it if I want to. I can fill it out there. Or I can send tips, and this one was the one we filled out earlier about some additional resources. So I could change this and put in resources here to send to them if I wanted to. So that's a way that I can contact them and send information that way. So I could have that sent to the student. Here is keeping track of all the students that have struggled. So this is going to be a list of students who have completed 25% or more of the formative assessments in a module, but they did not meet the mastery. So they did a lot of the formative assessments, but they still, for some reason, did not meet mastery. So it would let you see who those people were, what their scores were, and then you can click on the student and see specifically what score they made. You can see their attempts. You can see how many quiz attempts they took, and you can see did they complete the formative assessment pieces on that particular module. And then if you message them. So you're going to be able to see those different things per student. You'll be able to see all those different pieces there.